Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 82 of the Playoff Push podcast. As always, I'm your host, Jack Dobbins, and today I'm joined by a very special guest, former Major League pitcher Jay Jackson. How we doing?
What's up, Jack? Pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me on. I'm excited to be here and just chat away, man.
Absolutely. It's great to have you on. Shout out to Jackson Vols from JD Sports Zone for telling me to message you because now we're here on the show, getting to talk about your career, which has been very eventful as far as I'm aware. So I'm
Yeah,
very
to
excited to
say the
dive into
least.
it.
Yeah, to say the least. It's been one heck of a ride. Well, it was one heck of a ride now that I'm retired, but yeah, not 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Starting off, went to school in South Carolina before heading over to Furman University. Now, Furman, I'm going to lead off there. Not necessarily a popular athletic school. It's not like on the tier of the Georgias and the Alabamas. What do you think you were able to take from Furman to the next level?
If you look at it, the basketball teams made it to the dance the past 3 out of 4 years or something like that.
Yeah.
So we're getting there, but the baseball program is non-existent now. They cut the baseball program a few years ago, so we're trying to hopefully get that back. But the one thing I took from there is, you can play anywhere. Your talent level, if you as long as you have the talent, you can play anywhere. It's just your mindset because we played against a lot of those bigger teams. We played against the Georgias, we played against the South Carolinas, we played against the Clemsons, so we had a chance to play against them and match up against them and see how we stacked up. But at the end of the day, I took that I could play against those guys. And if going to the next level was what I wanted to do, which it was, then there's no difference between me and a couple of those other guys.
Was there any game where you realized specifically that you could kick it with those Clemsons and those other high tier schools in the area?
Well, I mean, my freshman year, I was the midweek starter, and we played Clemson and South Carolina that year. And Clemson, I think, was ranked in the top five in the nation, and we ended up beating them. And I was the starting pitcher that game, and I got to end up starting off one of the rallies that ended up helping us win the game. So I knew from that point that I was able to, hang with those guys. Plus, I got recruited by all those bigger schools anyway. I just chose to go to Furman because my sister has Down syndrome, and I wanted to be closer to my family and just be around town and, make sure my family was okay before I started going out and traveling the world. You know what I mean? So I wanted to make sure everything was cool at home and make sure my parents got a chance to see me play and it was a chance to play against the bigger teams at the same time. So it was just one of those things. Like I chose Furman just for the simple fact that it was just close to home. So that game specifically my freshman year showed me that like the next three could be unbelievable, but I already knew I could kind of play with them. It just kind of icing on the cake, cherry on the top, I guess.
Can you elaborate a bit on that about your family and coming up through college?
And my family are like the foundation of everything I do. My dad's always told me, it's God, family, and then whatever else you want to do. So for me, it was baseball. But if it's not baseball, then it's, basketball or school or whatever job you might have. So my family's always going to be very important to me, and they've always been there as my support system too. So whenever anything's going wrong, I can trust that they're going to be there. They support me in everything I do. And just they've been the ones who've never let me, truly crumble and crash out and just fall all the way down to, I've hit rock bottom a couple of times, but they've been the ones that help me truly pick me back up and make sure I remember that, anything is possible and there to support me no matter what happens.
You proved that a lot is possible during your career. Back when the draft had what seemed like a million rounds, you were taken pretty high. Ninth round, 281st overall by the Chicago Cubs. However, you did not debut with the Cubs. You actually went through four organizations before finally hitting on the fifth with San Diego. What was that process throughout the minor leagues like in those 7 years before you're able to finally make it?
It was fun. I had my ups and downs. I wanted to quit a lot of those times. I was a top prospect for a few years, then fell off the map. And, just mentally just going up and down through the process and not knowing what was going to happen, seeing guys go up before me that I didn't think should go up before me, trying to handle that, knowing that it wasn't always about, necessarily the baseball skills or the numbers, that there's other things involved. I think that the process just, it was long. First of all, it was long, but it was gratifying at the end because I learned so much. I met so many great people. I feel like I got to embrace and touch and, have so much fun with so many people too that, I hopefully I changed their lives for the better. But it showed me that anything's possible. Like I said, I wanted to quit so many times. There was like three or four times I wanted to quit, but the first time and like the main time I wanted to quit, I literally asked God. I was like, "Hey, if baseball is what I'm supposed to do, then show me the way." And literally the next day, I ended up getting a job offer to go play winter ball. And so I was like, "Okay, I guess I'm playing baseball, and I'm never going to take it for granted again, and just keep rolling with it." So it was all worth it. That was my dream come true, and I just tried to stick with it and try to have as much fun as I could with it.
I love that. I want to do a quick deep dive into one little segment of that minor league journey. I want to go from '09 to 2012. Now in '09, 8-7 record and a 2.98 ERA in 24 games across three levels. And then by 2012, that ERA ballooned up to a 6.57 in 37 appearances.
Yeah.
What happened over that time frame?
I mean, just life. We have chances and opportunities. I think that mentally I got myself out of it. I started worrying about things that are outside of my control. That's actually before the chance that I wanted to, like, that I gave myself back to baseball, realistically, when I asked God to kind of change my life with, making sure baseball is what I wanted to do to make sure I was going to enjoy the game. I think I just took a lot of negativity and a lot of anger through those years where I saw, like I said, I saw guys getting called up before me that I didn't think should have gotten called up before me. I was a top prospect. And then all of a sudden I wasn't. I felt like I was on the organizational radar. And then I wasn't. I got moved up to AAA so fast and I played so well. And then it was just like everything like crashed down in front of me because I was at a higher level than I had ever been, which you have to adjust to. I'm not taking anything away from it, but the PCL is a different animal when it comes to pitchers and hitters. It's one of the most hitter friendly leagues in the world. And as a 20-year-old, 21-year-old, 22-year-old going there facing, 28 and 29-year-olds and trying to figure it out, life happens. It doesn't always go swimmingly, like, you know what I mean? I think that you see a lot more guys with numbers like sixes and sevens get called to the big leagues from the minors now than you used to because there's not as many, one, but two, people are just basing it off of more of the analytics instead of, letting the guys learn and develop and go through certain stuff and develop the way they need to and figure out their true baseball IQ so they can go deeper in games and not just rely on pure talent.
Yeah, how do you fight through that? The entire thing of other guys getting called up that you think you should have gotten called up.
I'm thankful that I had the people around me that I did, like my parents and my teammates and the coaches that I had then, because they were so supportive, but also they understood what I was going through. I had a lot of former players and coaches that were former players that saw what was happening. And like I said, it wasn't necessarily the declining numbers, it was the underlying stuff behind it. Okay, life was happening. You were switching from different positions, you know, you're switching different levels, there's injuries, just different things are happening. So having those people around me to support me and understand and help with my development kind of helped me get through that. But ultimately, I think it was, having the resilience and wherewithal within myself to know that that's what I wanted to do and the people around me supporting me. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I really created the baseball app that I have to mentor and help the younger baseball generation. So they don't have to necessarily hopefully go through a 3-year stretch like I did, like you said, but they can make those adjustments quicker where they can get back up on the horse and get to their peak performance earlier.
I do definitely want to hit on that later on in the show. I want to dedicate the entire last segment to it because I'm so intrigued to dive into
Mhm.
it. But I want to elaborate a little bit on the previous point. Were there any teammates or coaches specifically that you think really helped you during that time?
No, 100%. I think teammates and coaches, it was more my family goes back to them. Like I said, my biggest support system is because everybody, once you get to pro ball, everybody's really worried about themselves. You try to be there for your guys as much as you can, but you realistically have to worry about your career, what you're doing, making sure that you're on top of your game every day. So you can't worry about if other guys are struggling as much as you want to. You can be there for them. But I think my mom and dad were the biggest contributors of me keeping with it and mentally. But also, I'd say a big part of it was one of my coaches, which was Mike Mason. At that time, he was our AAA pitching coach. He was always very supportive of everything I was doing. He saw something in me that I didn't see in myself at the time, I can honestly say. And I think that, you know, he gave me the opportunity to fail and develop and stuck with me and probably was in the back rooms telling those guys to keep me probably along the way. But I'm definitely grateful for him and just a lot of my teammates that I had, we were kind of in the same boats together at those times because I was one of the youngest guys there. So I'm sitting there being young and going through these things, and they're older and just learning and looking from them, trying to learn as much as I can because they're going through things that I might go through later. But, they helped me as much as they could. But I would say that it was more, we were trying to all fend for ourselves and just relying on our parents and our friends, like our close knit group of people more than, our teammates at that point in time.
It all comes back to family, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%. But I mean, we treat our teammates like family. Like I had a lot of guys that I still talk to now that are like family, especially the guys that I came up through the Cup system with, like Marquez Smith, Josh Whitlock, who's starting a huge baseball facility in Charlotte, North Carolina. I
Mm.
still reach out to Tommy Mejia from time to time. Tony Thomas, who's a high school coach down in Florida. Tony Campana, who made his debut with the Cubs and was one of the bigger guys there. So I still talk to some of those guys, and we treat each other like family as much as we can, but we understand that it's a business and that we all have to do our own separate things as well.
Absolutely. And then you finally made the major leagues, 2015 with San Diego. What was that first game like on September 14th?
Uh, I mean, you can probably see the numbers and people can see the numbers. It was terrible. I was really nervous. It was the first time I just, I wasn't comfortable. It takes time to get comfortable and learn who you are and how you react up there. But the nerves got the best of me and I didn't, put my best foot forward, I would say. But nonetheless, it was just such a surreal moment that I was able to do there and be there. And, I was blessed. And luckily, I had my teammate get me out of it where I didn't lose the game. But um, got my first strikeout, got my first walk, gave up a hit. Like I got everything done that you could possibly have as a pitcher. So I'm thankful for it. It was just such an unbelievable moment because a lot of the guys, like how that happened was we all got caught up. The season was already over, so a lot of guys were already at home. I just had happened to stay an extra day in El Paso so I could pack my stuff up and have just like a decompression day. But if not, I would have been in South Carolina, had to fly all the way from South Carolina to Arizona and then possibly pitch that night instead of luckily flying from El Paso to Arizona and pitching. So
Oof.
yeah,
How about
it
that?
worked out. It worked out. Like I said, opportunities, things happen in completely random ways at times, but like you try to take the most from them, take them as the most positive as you can.
The season ended on a better note, though. Five more games, only one more run allowed. So clearly you worked through it. And then you headed over to Japan to play for Hiroshima, playing 3 years there. A 1.71 ERA in your first year, followed by back-to-back 2.76s. What did you learn about yourself during that time?
Correction. Second year I had a two. And third year I had like a 2.67 or something like that because I was
Wow.
hurt. That's just my combined numbers. So yes, but yeah, because my second year I know I had a two because I hit all my incentives. So that's
There
what
we
I learned
go.
over there. Like they
There
give
we
you
go.
a lot more incentives over there, and I got to be myself. I felt like I got to come into my own over there, and I realized I could play against anybody because Japan baseball is such a great league to be in and we won three championships over there. We played Shohei Ohtani in the Japan series my first year after we won the Central League the second year. We lost in the semifinals because we had some key injuries. In the third year, I played against the no, not Nippon. I played against the SoftBank Hawks in the Japan series as well. So I got to go to two Japan series, and I learned that like baseball is 27 outs, but like you have to be yourself. Like the best me, I learned that the best me I can be is a happy person and a positive person and try to play my best that way. And that's kind of what it taught me. It taught me that like I can pitch at a very high level for a long time.
Was there anything different about the major leagues and then NPB? Because I've talked with some other NPB guys before, and they mentioned certain things that are different between the two leagues. What did you notice as the biggest difference between the two?
I noticed, I mean, the power difference obviously is one of the things, but just the fundamentals and respect factors, the two bigger things that I noticed, especially the fundamentals. Like guys take BP every day, spring training's 2 months long. They work on the fundamentals so much. It's more quantity over quality. but that quantity leads to quality at a certain point. So I think that's what they believe in. But just how they go about certain situations too. It's more small ball here and there. I remember there's a few times where we had two outs and we played the outfield in and we were up by like 2 or 3 runs. So it was crazy to see
Hmm.
kind of the things that happen from time to time. But for me, I think ultimately with all the countries I've played in, since I've played in like 4 or 5 at this point, baseball is still baseball. It's still 27 outs at the end of the day, which is the one thing I've really realized. It's how you get to the 27 outs might be different, but at the end of the day, like you have to throw strikes, you have to hit the ball, and you have to get 27 outs. So the fundamentals are all there. It's just each country has their different way of like how they attack it kind of thing. And so there, it's a little bit more small ball. In America, we play more for the highlights and the home runs and the strikeouts. So that's kind of the main thing that I noticed. And I had to be a lot more refined in my pitching. I couldn't miss as many spots there as well because
Hmm.
you would give up one hit. That one hit would turn into a bunt over the second base or something like that. And next thing you know, you've given up 3 runs. Like so, it was crazy.
Yeah, you can kind of tell that in the way that the baseball leagues are run. Like, you can tell that MLB, they bring the flair. They're ready to hit that ball 500 feet to dead center. But in Japan, it's also like respectful. It feels like they're playing a totally different game, even though it's the same.
Yeah, no, it's they play the game like with a basic IQ that I feel like that not that we're missing anymore, but I feel like we shifted to such an entertainment based in America with our game, and as we should because that's what's bringing in the dollars, right? But over in Japan, they're still playing baseball. Like it's not okay. We're gonna try to strike everybody out. It's like okay, who can win this game? Like if I give up the least amount of runs, then that's the best thing possible. It's not okay. I'm gonna strike the most amount of people out or I'm going to hit the most amount of home runs. It's literally okay. If we win 1-0 or 2-0, perfect because we're trying to win a championship.
Exactly. But you could strike some guys out too. Let's not pretend like you couldn't in your next major league stint in Milwaukee and then leading into San Francisco in 2021. Strikeout per nine numbers of 13.9 and 11.6. What was it with your stuff that you think really led to those high numbers?
I mean, it's just baseball IQ. Like my stuff has always been there. It's just knowing how and when to pitch, who to pitch to, when to get your strikeouts. And I mean, you look at the numbers. I said this to some guys the other day. As a pitcher, even as a position player, you normally get like a 4 or 5 year window of having like really good years or really good numbers. And if you really kind of look at mine, I was still in the 10 plus K per nine like my whole career. I was in the 10 and a half almost like my whole career. So it wasn't like crazy that I was striking that many guys out. It's just as I got older and learned more about the game and knew where I was at, and I came back and learned how to pitch better and knew my stuff and knew myself better. I could put myself in positions to get strikeouts. And I knew when to go for the strikeout, when to not. And you saw that with kind of my numbers through those years, especially in AAA, where I was in the ones and twos for like 4 or 5 years in a row.
Was there any tenure with a team that you think was your best or your favorite?
I wouldn't say favorite. I think you could say my best tenure with my team would probably be the stint in Japan, the 3 years with the Carp. If you take out before I was hurt over there, I had a 1.7, a two, and then before I got hurt, I was still sitting in the low twos again. So those 3 years were amazing, especially for the fact that we won 3 championships too. So I think that was my best tenure. But I think my favorite place would probably be the Blue Jays and the Giants. The Giants because just that city and the way that we were battling the Dodgers and how it went down to, game 162 to kind of win the league that year. And then also with the Blue Jays, just kind of with everything that happened with my family and making the playoffs that year again with them. And they haven't been in a couple years and just how the city embraced us and how everything just kind of panned out for me in 2023 that year with my son being born and stuff. I think that was probably my favorite year. But, best tenure is probably the Japan first stint, and then being with the Giants probably was one of my favorite places to be as well.
Yeah, those were the two I was suspecting. Just two of the biggest franchises in all of baseball, getting to play for them. How about that? Like, that's some cool
Yeah.
stuff.
No, 100%. Like, I definitely don't take my time with Milwaukee for granted or with Atlanta because Atlanta was my hometown team for sure. So, I mean, I don't think all my friends only talk to me still about the time I spent with Atlanta because at home that's all they care about is the Braves. But, you know, the places I spent the most time and had the most fun, like treated me, the most like family, which was San Fran and like I said, Toronto.
We'll move on from the major league career, head over to the draft league. I mentioned to you earlier that you were the pitching coach for the Black Bears this past season, and I happened to cover the championship game when you guys took home the W in state college in, I think it was late August. I don't think it was early
Yeah.
September yet. But what was that year like getting to run with such a talented group of individuals in the draft league?
It was crazy and exciting and such a blast. I think the thing that I took the most from it was that I can be a coach and I can be an effective coach. And watching the guys develop throughout the year and see them get better and see what we were working on and see it translate and see the guys just enjoy the game of baseball like I used to when I was playing too. I think that was the biggest thing I took away from was just the joy of the game that these guys had and how good they can be and knowing that, the sky's the limit for these guys. Like they had an opportunity and a lot of them took advantage of it. And I'm glad to see what they all accomplished now because I think all the guys that I had on my pitching staff just about all signed. So I'm
Woo!
lucky with that aspect. And, hopefully I get some more credit for, the development of these guys as they progress and go along. And just get credit as a coach of how we developed throughout the year and how good our team was. So I get some more opportunities to possibly coach and help other organizations in different facets as well. But no, that was an amazing year as a first time coach, being able to win a championship and just kind of see how a coach would be and what I would want a coach to be when I was playing and see if it translated over to other guys, which it did. So I'm just grateful and blessed that for the guys that I did have and that they listened to me and we had a blast.
How important do you think these summer leagues are for kids who might not be getting scouted for major league clubs immediately, but how important do you think they are for the guys that need to develop?
100%. I feel like the development that we've seen in college and pro ball is lacking to a certain degree at this point, regardless, because there's guys that are teaching the data and the analytics, but they're not teaching the baseball IQ stuff to go along with it, to know when these things are viable, when it's going to be best used, like knowing like who your coach is and how to relay the information to them and knowing who your player is and relaying your information to that because I feel like a lot of players resonate more and are going to listen to more former players than guys who haven't played at that level. And guys who haven't played at such a high level, a lot of times, even though they can be great coaches because they can see everything possibly and know the data and stuff, they haven't necessarily been in those situations to understand that it's not going to be perfect all the time and they can't truly resonate with those guys. So I think the development that we're giving these guys, you have to have them go to the summer leagues or you have to have them play and be around guys that are in pro ball somehow, some way, especially if you want them to be at the next level. These guys can do it themselves, but I think MLB with the leagues that they're trying to incorporate with Cape Cod doing what they're doing, the MLB Draft League doing the Coastal Plains leagues and all these other leagues that they're doing to incorporate the development, I think they need to keep, making sure that they're hiring the right people too, though. But I feel like that's the major thing with the development is who you hire, who these organizations hire, who MLB Draft League hires, who the colleges hire, like all the things. So, I mean, but I think it is drastically important for these kids if they want to be at the next level, if they have an opportunity to go play in the draft league or Cape Cod or something like that, to take advantage of it because you never know who's watching. Like I said, we had a lot of guys get signed, not necessarily to affiliates, but get signed to independent leagues and all types of things.
I couldn't agree more. I love the summer draft leagues, getting the guys ready to continue their careers. That's it for my questions. However, I want you to talk a little bit about the Smile Zone. Just elaborate a little bit on it, what it is, give the people an idea.
Oh, so yeah, Smile Zone. After I finished playing, like I said, I was playing for 17 years, and I'm not gonna say I feel like baseball is in a bad state because the entertainment value and the money that teams are making are exponentially and just growing day by day, right? Because of the highlights and stuff, because of the knowledge we have behind the game. But I want people to understand that playing baseball and the guys that want to play baseball is not all about the numbers and the analytics all the time. You need to know when to use these things. And so therefore that's why I create the Smile Zone, which is SMILE stands for start making intentional life efforts. But I created the app and it's a curriculum based app for 48 weeks, four 12-week sessions, phases, and you get to just have different mindset things each week to not only be a better player but to be a better person, to make sure that you have your foundation locked in, to make sure that you're going through these things that life is throwing at you on and off the field because baseball beats you down more than any other sport, right? Like failing in baseball is a Hall of Fame career. So making sure that you're taking these failures and these negative moments and trying to turn them into positive as much as possible. And so the curriculum is 48 weeks based off of the book that I wrote, which is 9 innings to living your best life. But also the main thing about the app is you get to talk to a former Major League Baseball player as your mentor if you sign up. You get to choose between talking to them for 1 hour, 2 hours, or 4 hours a month. And you also get to talk to all the coaches in a monthly meeting as well. So it's getting that information and that knowledge and advice from somebody that's been there before that you might be lacking or you might not be able to get to like in your own state because a lot of places, like I said, a lot of coaches now haven't been at the highest level one, and that's no discredit to them, but as a former player, if I had the access and ability to talk to a former major leaguer to know that I want to be a big leaguer and what I should and shouldn't do, I would have definitely taken advantage of it, especially in high school and in college. So this is just something to give those kids a way to do that. All like if you want to be a big leaguer or not, as long as you care about the game or just want to be a better player on and off the field, this is something that's going to help. It's called the Smile Zone. It's launched this live. We have myself as the lead coach who's going to always be there as a mentor. We have Edgar Olmos, who played for the Marlins and the Mariners. We have Trayvon Robinson, who played for the Mariners. Jalen Davis, who played for the Giants, the Twins, and the Red Sox. Nicky Delmonico's with us, who played for the White Sox. We have a good coaching staff of guys that are all there to make sure that these kids and the next generation of baseball players are not only better players but better people, and that you can learn from us, listen to us, and get the advice you need. Because even if you have a sports psychiatrist or a sports therapist, they can give you everything you can need to kind of work around the things, but they still never truly been in the fire that you've been in. So having somebody as a mentor to guide you through these things is, the best thing I can say because being a mentor for me and seeing these kids get better. And also, I know it works too because I used it with my guys last year for the MLB Draft League. We had the weekly mindset themes from the curriculum every week. So I know it works and I know it makes kids and the guys better going forward. And I know it makes them want to do better. And I didn't have a problem with any of the guys wanting to be leaders and just their attitudes from the time they started to the time they finished were unbelievable. So this is just something, again, to make kids and parents in the community in an ecosystem that's more full of positive, better, happier people to make sure that we're changing the game for the better in the long run. So that's a long-winded version of it, I guess, in a nutshell. But yeah, it's just an app to build an ecosystem in a community of very positive, supportive people for the kids and the next generation of ball players on and off the field where whatever they might be going through, we're there to make sure that we're helping them. So if they go through a big signing period or they go through, getting drafted or NIL, at least we have the people around them that can be best suited to help them guide them and their parents through whatever they might be going through to give them the best advice to make sure we're looking out for the kids more than, the coaches are always going to look out for their jobs and their egos and everything else. We're going to make sure that we're looking out for the kids first and foremost to make sure they're going to be the best versions of themselves, to make sure we're having a more positive and productive society in general.
If you're a ball player, make sure to check it out. The Smile Zone from yours truly, Jay Jackson. Any final words before we close out?
No, for sure. Everybody just be happy, be positive, smile, turning lemons into lemonade, and just enjoy your days that you have. Like be grateful for the people around you, find the right people, and just honestly just smile. Like smile for start making intentional life efforts, but smile just to be happy because smiles turn the world upside down from frowns to, brighter places. So enjoy it, enjoy the life we have, and just, be happy and smile.
That's going to do it here. Episode 82 of the Playoff Push podcast. As always, thank all of you for tuning in. I'm Jack Dobbins and have a great rest of your day.